Hello, I'm Kristen Oaks White. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Well, the cost from this year's hurricanes in Louisiana is staggering, and we won't know the final result for some time. However, we are getting a clear picture about Hurricanes Laura and Delta in immediate cost. The LSU AgCenter has been working to get the full economic impact, and economist Kurt Guidry says whatever we have lost in crops is outweighed by the winds that have destroyed a lot of agriculture's infrastructure.
When we're looking at the impact from both Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta, really both of those storms are very similar, not only in terms of their path, but in terms of the impacts that we've seen from them. Hurricane Laura, we saw about a $1.6 billion impact to both agriculture and forestry. Majority of that was in forestry, timber damage. The impact to agriculture was predominantly infrastructure driven, about $400 million of about a $500 million impact to agriculture. The other $100 million was in terms of direct commodity impacts. When you look at Delta, not quite the magnitude of the impact, but the breakdown of the impacts I think are going to be relatively similar. When we look at larger impacts for infrastructure, maybe smaller impacts or lower dollar numbers when we look at agriculture, individual impacts to individual agriculture commodities. The commodities that were impacted in Laura are similar product commodities that were impacted in Delta. The difference being, by the time Delta came around, more of those commodities had been harvested, so the acres impacted are going to be much smaller for Delta than they were for Laura. But again, both of them were predominantly a wind-related event. Both of them moved through the state pretty quickly. Laura had very little rainfall with it, and flooding was predominantly isolated along the coast. When you look at Delta, quite a bit more rainfall. We had areas more inland that had some flooding issues, but again, the issues are going to be more isolated from a flooded standpoint to some inland areas that got the 15, 18, 20 inches of rain, and then along the coast. And again, for most of those flooded areas have drained off relatively quickly, and so the impact is going to be long-term impact we hope is going to be relatively minor.
A full report on the damage from Delta is due later this week. We'll have that information plus a crop-by-crop breakdown online at our website at twilatv.org.